Good evening again. I want you to turn to Acts chapter 2. I'm going to be doing, well, I say a series. It's not a series in the traditional sense, but it's going to be in this vein that I'm going to tell you here in just a second. You know, as I think about our church, as I think about what some of our needs are, as I think about the direction we're going, as I ponder all these things, as I ponder how the Lord has used us, how the Lord will continue to use us if we are willing, as I ponder all those things, and as I'm looking to what the Lord would have us do, I have a responsibility to follow the Word of God. I have a responsibility to oversee this church. And so my question is, this is tonight's, does our church look anything like the first one? Does our church look anything like the first church? That's a question for us. Or any of the other churches that are mentioned in the Bible? Does our church look anything like that? That's a question for you. We will have an interactive time in just a minute. And so, these series, and I don't know how many there's going to be, when we get done, you'll know, I guess. Kind of like Abraham. God told him to go. How will I know when to stop? When you get there. So, when we get there, we'll stop. The series isn't so much all about do we look anything like the first church. It's more of where are we going? What are we doing? Who are we reaching? What does that look like? Okay? What does that look like for our church? What does that look like compared to the Word of God? Do you get what I'm saying? I hope you do. And so tonight, I want us to look at some things in the book of Acts. But before we go there, actually, I told you to turn to Acts chapter 2. You keep your place there. I want you to turn to Matthew chapter 24. I'm going to go there first. Somebody here not very long ago started off preaching this way too. Who was that? Yes, that's right. Acts chapter, I didn't mention this morning, Brother Ryder was preaching in South Bay today, so big prayer for them. The Aches family, they have an uncle, Sister Ruth Aches, her brother, who has been in bad shape for a long time, needing transplants and different things. Anyways, he's been in hospital for quite some time. He passed away. So they were having their memorial services and that for him. And so Brother Ryder stepped up and was preaching for them in South Bay today. Brother Randy today. Okay, does our church look anything like the first church? Or any of the other churches that are mentioned in the Bible? Good or bad? So that's the question. Tell us how. It does or doesn't. I'm making a list. All right. Okay, put it down here. Yes. Sending out and supporting missionaries. Okay.
I think one of the most important things is what we teach and preach. Is it like what the first church did?
Well, the question is, do we? I think it's important. Question, do we look like that?
We do.
Okay, that's what I want to know. I don't know.
You didn't want to question.
Well, you said the important thing is to be doing that. The question is, are we doing that? Okay. So, okay. What else? We've got sending out and supporting missionaries. Okay. And we've got essentially teaching the doctrine. Okay. What else? What's that? Following Jesus. How? Because the question is, does our church look like the first church or any of the other churches that are mentioned in the Bible?
Giving liberally out of our financially to our fellow brothers and missionaries. The support.
Was that, okay, so for others who are at, was that in one of the churches or some of the churches?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, the churches of Galatia. And Paul was telling the other churches to follow their example. Okay.
I think churches look to our example. Actually.
So you say we're doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. But Scott, you had some?
Well, doesn't it talk in Acts where they met daily and where they were breaking bread daily? And
Do we do that?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Question: are there churches today that do that?
Not true churches.
You don't think so? I know churches that meet daily. They're in our work. Daily. Seriously. Not in the United States. Not in the United States. But they are scriptural New Testament churches. And they meet every day. You know what time they meet? Probably right about now. They don't have watches.
Watch the sun.
By the time they get all their stuff done, they get the people, their families together, they've eaten something, all their stuff is done for the day, about somewhere around this time. So when is that? Well, that changes every day, right? Doesn't change. When it says. Okay, what's something else that we look like or don't look like? How do you know? What did the first church people wear? Huh? Robes? And sandals? Oh, I'm seeing some of you wearing sandals. Sister Rachel didn't have any shoes on this morning when she came up. I'm not sure what happened to her shoes, but... We probably don't dress the same as them. That's true. So we don't dress the same. Because I guarantee you, they didn't have suits and ties.
I guarantee you they didn't wear shorts to church.
But I guarantee you a lot of them wore robes.
Yeah, they didn't wear ties.
We now have a completed Word of God.
Excuse me?
We now have a completed Word of God. The first church.
Okay. So, we don't look like the first church because we have the completed Word of God?
The word of God's not completed.
The Word of God wasn't completed?
It's not completed. You're just using the church as an example.
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Well, the word of the church keeps going on.
It's true. It is, the Word of God is
The word of
complete.
God is complete,
Yeah.
but the history of the church is not. The history.
Okay. Yeah, but, okay. I get that. Anything else? Do we look like the first church? Or any of the churches?
We got back the same way.
Do we? No, I'm just asking a question. Do we baptize the same way? Yes and no? What's the no part? We baptize in the river all the time up in Red Bluff. When I was not after we got building at baptistry, but we did before that. Okay. So the mode of baptism is the same. Would you say that's true, Brother Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, we baptize the same in that way. Right. But do we necessarily have, they didn't have built baptistries. Did they only baptize in rivers? Is that listed as the criteria? No. What was the criteria? They were baptizing because there was much water. There was enough water to do the job. Okay? So that's the criteria. All right, what else? What other way are we alike or dislike the churches mentioned in the Bible?
Really baptize those that profess Christ.
You think the first church is baptized? Oh, that's the same.
Right.
Okay. Well, okay, I would go with that baptizing. We're in the same vein with all that.
The old church didn't have Pastor Tim. I had to say it.
So you're
sorry.
trying to say those churches were luckier?
I didn't say that.
Not luck.
We
I
take
don't
the
believe in
Lord's
luck.
Supper the same way.
What's that?
We take the Lord's Supper the same way.
We take the Lord's Supper the same way. Okay? Now, some of the logistics and things of them are not the same. You understand that? Independent churches? Okay, we're independent. We're not part of, there's no hierarchy, if you will, that governs us. We're local bodies. Okay? Now let's change this. I think we got the idea a little bit.